thank you so much for doing this interview with me. We were just talking beforehand. Matt, the heat out there here in Toronto is murder. How are you handling all this?
Not well.
That's probably the best answer anybody can give. Like I said, it is definitely hot. But more importantly, though, it's great that you're here in Yorkville at the Liss Gallery. Your exhibit is here, your photos. How does it feel being here, being part of all this?
Oh, it's very nice. We've been working on this for about 6 months, selecting the photos and getting the prints made. So, yeah, it's the culmination of about 6 months' work.
I was going to say, though, 6 months' work, though, photos. How many photos, just an average, that you have to go through to figure out what you're going to get into?
I've got an archive that goes back about 45 years, so I had to go through about 25,000 photographs.
How do you do that?
A lot of them are pretty bad. So it goes quickly. It gets sorted pretty quickly. But as I was going through it, I thought, yeah, there's some good things here. And then I brought some along to Brian Liss here at the gallery, and he said, yeah, we can do something with these. So I started to cull them some more, and it ended up, I've got a very eclectic photographs. I mean, they're all over the map. I mean, if something interests me, I'll take a photograph of it. So there's photojournalism, there's my interest in World War II history and history in general. There's portraits, landscapes, so it's all over the map. So the selection was to, well, let's just show that, the broad range of the photos I've taken, and see if we can boil it down to 17, that was difficult.
But we did it. Somehow we did it, though. And somehow you decided to get into this side of the art world. Why? What was the interest for you?
Well, I've had a career in film and television, and
you were a director too, correct?
Yes, I directed for some 45 years, and along the way I was taking photographs, and I just put them to one side. But photography always interested me because with film, you've got 24 frames a second, you've got sound, you've got a script, you've got different camera setups, you can edit the material together, you can add sound effects, you can add music, and really you're in control, you're manipulating the audience, whereas with a still camera, it's one click, one frame, and that's it. And it's for the audience to bring their story to it. It's much more involving than film. Film is like you're manipulating the audience, whereas with still photography, somebody will come in and look at a photo and take something away that means something to them entirely different from what you may have intended. So I find photography much more interactive with the audience, and that's what fascinated me about it. Can you capture what you want in one frame, and then see what happens with an audience when they look at it? Do they take away the same thing you intended? Invariably, something different will come out for somebody viewing a photograph. So it was just, it's a different art form than film, and that always interested me. And in the last few years, I just backed away from the film and television industry for two reasons. One was the fun had gone out of it. It's very much business-oriented now. And the second reason is it's really a young man's game. It's a lot of hard work, and you just say, I don't want to do it anymore.
But what kind of, or what was your favorite camera back then to use in film also?
It was a Nikon, black and white. Generally speaking, I preferred black and white photography. And then as it gone along, of course, you get into the digital age. I was sorry to see film go by, same way as when I was working in film and television. That's pretty much all digital now. And so I've sort of run the gamut of the various processes. What I like about digital is that it's all in your hands. I mean, you're the one doing the manipulations. I mean, I never processed my own photographs, even in black and white. I had somebody who was a good friend of mine that would do it, and we'd go over the prints and so forth and say, make it a little lighter, a little darker. Whereas it's very interesting to take these photographs now where you can do that on your own computer and do the manipulations and fine touching. And with a lot of my photos, the negatives were so old, I had to get into restoring the prints. I mean, taking the dust off 40-year-old negatives, rejuvenating them and just manipulating them to look like they were taken yesterday. And that's the great thing about digital photography, is what you can do with it.
How do you take a good picture? And the reason why I'm asking this is we all, I mean, you know, we have our cameras on our cell phones these days. Everybody's trying to take an angle shot and whatever else. How do you know when to take the shot? How do you know, is it luck? Is it skill? Is it a combination of both? What's the senses of going, let's do this. I got my camera. Let me go take some pictures of this.
Yeah, it's a combination of both, really, and a lot of it is luck. Sometimes you can set something up, and then when you're looking through the lens, you'll find something else comes into your mind, and it's a lot of it is luck, though, and also I think I had a pretty good eye. I've always had a good eye for cinematography and photography. I could compose well and so forth, and using that, I also looked for light. I always wanted to find natural light. If I was in a place that had good natural light, I just crossed my fingers that something interesting would pass through that light, and invariably it did. Recently I've got into some portrait stuff, but I tend to try and go back to a photojournalistic style where I'll set up a very simple lighting setup and see how a person moves through it. And the other thing I try to do with that is to try and capture something of the person I know, rather than just taking a photograph of that person. Is there something I can get that reveals a little bit about them?
And I want to get to that because when you are, because there's celebrity pictures in this also, how do you get that trust of that celebrity? Because not all celebrities want everybody taking their picture. How do you build that trust and be able to say, look, I want to do this, let's do it?
Yeah, for instance, there's a picture here in the exhibit, I think it's right behind me, of Robert Mitchum, and he was on a promotional tour, one of the few times he ever did that, but it was for a film that he quite liked, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, and this was in 1973. And I knew the people locally at Paramount Pictures that were handling the tour. I went to them and I say, can I get like 5-10 minutes with them? I went up to his suite and I hung a 60-watt bulb in his bathroom because it had an interesting sort of louvered background, something very simple. And he came in, and the New York Paramount people said, don't bother him, don't bother him. And they were worried about, he had a reputation of just not wanting to do things like this. But he'd seen me hanging around all day on the fringes there, and he looked over and said, what do you want? He said, I want to take your picture. He said, okay, where? I said, I got a little thing set up in the bathroom. He said, yeah, let's go and do it. So he came in, and basically to get the shot, he had to sit on the toilet. And below this 60-watt bulb, and he just basically had a conversation with me, which I believe was about how Toledo was a rubber capital of America. And he was having a rare old time, and I just went, he never posed, I just went click, 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 click until the roll was done, 24 frames. And I didn't think I'd gotten very much. But Mitchum was one of those guys where the camera just loved him. And the guy I met was just some big burly guy on a promotional tour that was having a lot of fun. When I processed the picture, I said, that's the film noir Mitchum I wanted to photograph. I merely clicked the shutter, but it was him, something, and he had it. And practically every frame of it, he looked like the Robert Mitchum we all know. And it's like, I just went, I was amazed. I said, the camera loves this guy. I mean, he can do no wrong in front of a camera. And I wasn't seeing it at the time, but yeah, and he was very gracious to do that. You know, we were done. He said, okay, thanks, pal, and off he went.
I don't want to give too much away, though, but what are some of the other photos that we're going to see here at the Liss Gallery?
I've got photos of, they're all completely different. I once got a ride in the fabled B-17 World War II bomber, the Memphis Belle. I got a photo of that. Also, I toured Normandy, the Normandy beach of D-Day, and I got some, I think, some pretty interesting shots of what is there now. There's a photo here of Bugsy Siegel's glasses that I found in the Museum of the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, and I manipulated that about and put a different reflection of Vegas in the glasses there. He was the man that created the flamingo and that. There's actually a photo here taken by my father on VE Day in 1945, so I thought that's a really great photo, and it was just lying around a family album, and it was just fabulous. So that one's up here. I got pictures in Paris, pictures taken in Monument Valley. I got 2 pictures taken in a bar in Amsterdam within 5 minutes of each other. An older couple that are very affectionate to each other, and I turned around and took another picture of a man who covered his face. He had a very interesting face, but he just put his hands over his face, and the bartender said, "Don't take a picture of him." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, he was a collaborator in World War II. Nobody talks to him." So, and that was in the space of clicking it this way and clicking it that way. And like I say, the light in the bar was just phenomenal. I mean, all you had to do was have your camera and take pictures. I think I took about 40 pictures of these two. I thought, well, they each tell a story. So, yeah, so you never know when you're going to get a good photograph. And I travel a lot, and I like to go to historical places and stand in the spot where things happened. Got a picture of Marilyn Monroe's plaque on the wall where she's buried in Westwood, California. So yeah, I'm all over the map when it comes to taking photos. If it interests me, I'll take a photo of it.
Before we wrap this up, what advice could you give today's photographers? Because they, as you said, they've got the digital cameras and stuff like that. But just because you have digital doesn't mean that you can always create art. What advice can you give them?
I had some advice. I once wrote to a film director, how do I get started as a film director? And he wrote back very nicely and said, pick up a camera, go make a movie. And it's basically the same. If you've got a camera, start taking pictures. Show them to people. That's what pictures are for. They'll generally tell you if they're any good or not. But the thing is, yeah, just go out and take pictures. Take as many as you can and show them around, and who knows, somebody may say, hey, I like those too. So, and that's how you get started.
And then one of these days, you never know, you could be in the Liss Gallery. Could happen.
It's possible.
Absolutely. Website, Twitter, all that stuff, where do we go to follow you?
I've got a Facebook page under my name, Bruce Pittman. I've got a website, www.pittmanphotographs.com, where you can see a variety of my work there, and here at the Liss Gallery.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.